if I'm talking shit. I'm always afraid if I say anything about anyone, it's just they're gonna just appear
Instantly
like,
in the channel, like,
right
Garf
next
is
to
just
me.
a sack of. Oh, hey. So this will be the third podcast of the Tickle Talk. Yeah, I've named it that. I didn't ask you this time for naming suggestions, but it happened. But yeah, and you being Thunderbud, Runaka, the 2200 last season on what, 6, 7 characters, and I know this season you're
Six.
going for yeah, 6, actually 6, and I know this season you're going for like 2400 on probably those and more, seeing as you have even more 110s now. I think you got a rogue, another druid, and all that stuff, and you've been huge in helping with all the tickle party stuff, helping people get 2k, giving kind of tips and tricks to people, being really patient with people, which is pretty awesome. And you were part of that first Gladiator Q&A that we did like 6 months ago with Matt when he still existed. So yeah, so overall you're pretty cool too. But there's a few basics that I don't even know about you, and I can't find as much about you on the interwebs by searching all of your aliases. But when did you start playing WoW, and how did you get into it?
Oh, interesting question. I started playing when I was like 13, I think. I actually have been playing since vanilla, main to shaman ever since the beginning. What ended up happening was I had a girlfriend the time, quote unquote girlfriend when you're 13. But
I was about to say, wow, that is aggressive.
yeah, I know. But anyways, at the time, I was over at her house and we couldn't be unsupervised, and all of a sudden, her dad was playing WoW and she was playing WoW, and they're like, "You should try out this game," and I'm like, "All right, whatever." Like at the time, I thought that was lame, and then I tried it, and I was like, "This game is awesome," and so I got into it, and me and all my friends basically got it like hooked on it like drugs at like an early age, and we basically played it for like a whole summer. Got my shaman up to 60, and almost got high warlord back in the day. And ever
Oh
since
my
then, I've been playing.
god.
I've been playing on and off most of the expansions. I would say at least I've tried every expansion. I wouldn't say I played a ton in Kata or um, in BC or MOP really, but I kind of picked back up in WAD a little bit, and then I played a lot of Legion.
God, and so you basically what you're saying is you started playing World of Warcraft to impress a girl. That's what you just said.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Except for I used to destroy her in PvP because she was, of course, a night elf hunter, female night elf hunter. So I destroyed her because the BGs used to be realm attached. So if her and her dad would play, I would like hunt them down.
That's hilarious. So you played Shaman from the beginning. Were you Elemental or what were you? Because back then, my understanding is like in vanilla, Elemental was not a thing. They like,
No, it was talent trees back then. You had to like go certain points into the talent trees, and obviously at that age, I had no idea about gear prioritizing or itemizing or whatever. So I remember getting like into it, not really understanding what I was doing. I tried elemental because I thought elemental sounded cool, and then it was just terrible. Like if most of your talents were in elemental, you just got crushed. So I tried out enhance, two-hander, wind fury, and it was, yeah, it was a
you're
ton
one
of
of
fun.
those.
I was, man, and I used to randomly go up against people in like really terrible gear, like level 50s in Alt Valley, and just take them out in one hit.
Oh my god. I can imagine you at 14 just running around with your big hammer and just and were you
Yeah,
always playing the Horde or were you Alliance or
always horde. The only time I've ever gone Alliance is with alt to get games with some of my friends when Alliance had better ratios.
no, I see.
But, but that's pretty much it.
And did you when did you switch over to the enhance or sorry, to the elemental shaman? Is that more recently or
Well, so when arenas first came out in BC, I got really pumped about it, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do shaman, man. I love shaman. It's always been my main. I'm gonna do Ellie shaman because I saw people running around with some of the gladiator gear. I'm like, I want to get this gear, so I need to figure out how to do arenas. And I got destroyed mercilessly by locks and rogues and warriors and all these other classes. I had no idea what was going on. I had no key bindings. I was still clicking spells, getting just crushed. And then I remember there was a guy back in the name Gangster, and there was a rogue he was with. But anyways, these two guys, it was a rogue priest. They had gotten Gladiator like every season from like the beginning. They were just destroying everybody, and they kind of pulled me aside one time because I actually was doing in our realm, which sucked. I was actually relatively high rated. Um, And so they pulled me in. They're like, we need someone that's just at least over 1800. Like, there's nobody else. We're like 2480 or 2500 in twos, and we need to get a team together to like push. And so they taught me a lot. They taught me key bindings. They taught me focus macros. Like, they were super patient with me. They were like these two French dudes that were like super cool. They taught me how to play like strategies, and so I kind of picked it up. And then they stopped playing, and I kind of fell off for the rest of BC. I really didn't take it serious. And but I played Ellie mainly. But then I went into Wrath of the Lich King and basically went full blown Ellie. I only really did fives though at the time, and when I did fives,
well, yeah. I see you're one of those because you're protected in the back. Yeah,
exactly. Well, and I remember doing like PvE, and I had optimized gear and all that stuff, so I did a lot of both. But I played against. We were the number 2 fives team at the time in our battle group behind like Collective and whatever group it was that ran with him. But that's when I really started to get better at PvP. Like, I understanding like really like what synergized well. I started actually looking like, okay, wait a second, you can't just put together random players even though they're friends of yours and expect you're gonna have a good team comp. So
right.
But I've been an Ellie ever since then, pretty much. I mean, I dabble with enhance every once in a while when I want to blow people up with random melee abilities that hit for like 30-40% of their health. But other than that, I've pretty much primarily been an Ellie from then.
That's that's kind of awesome because I know that Ellie's there's always been people that have actually played at a higher level in previous X-Packs until, I mean, Legion has changed things a lot for Ellie, but it's good to hear that even back then, even in trying to flirt with it in vanilla, that just warms my Ellie heart. And when did you meet Ninja, who's your rogue friend that you've introduced me to, who I just met in person and all that stuff? But when did you meet him? Because Tiber was telling me that you guys have known each other for a really long time.
Yeah, I would say Ninja. When did I meet Ninja? Was it? I think it was in WoD. End of WoD. I think it was end of WoD. I have to double check with Ninja there. Just because I kind of met this whole group of people. So I randomly met some priest that was doing like literally looking for group in MOP. Got in a group with him, played with one of our other friends who no longer plays. The two of them don't. And we war game Tiber, Matt on his Destrolock, and then this other guy, Volt, I used to play with. And it went like 50-50-ish. But so I kind of met this whole group of people. I'm like, man, they're all pretty good though. At the time, 2200 was kind of like, wow, that was unbelievable to me because I was playing with random people like in looking for group that were like 1800.
Right.
And so that expansion, I met a bunch of people that were a little bit higher rated finally and started actually getting back into like the arena scene pretty seriously. And we pushed up to almost 2400. And we were playing around the exact same MMR as Matt and Ty in that group, and we never ended up playing it, but we used to always joke about like, we're gonna get him, we're gonna kill Ty instantly. Like, we're just gonna run, like we're just gonna run across the map and pop every single cooldown and try to kill Ty.
That's still a joke today, sniping him.
Yeah, exactly. To this day, it still is. A little bit harder now that his MMR is like 300 higher than ours, but yeah, so I met that whole group, and then they kind of like, we all just kind of fell into place. I don't remember exactly how I met Ninja. I think it was like looking for group or something like that, and I randomly like got in a group with him, or he was playing with someone I knew, and I was like, damn, this guy's super cool, super chill. I can play with him and just chill and never rage. Like, yeah. I never rage with Ninja. I've gotten upset with like, if we get stupid things like, double DH.
Right.
Or something like that. And you're just like, you can't help but getting a little tilted. But never like at one another. So it's kind of nice to find people like that where you're like, rating's important, but we can just play chill games and it's just fun and relaxing to play, and you don't have to like worry about like, oh man, he's gonna get tilted if we lose a game, he's gonna get salty or anything like that.
How do you think? What type of mindset do you have to try to not get tilted as you're playing against some of those things? I mean, is it just like kind of staying positive and constructive, or like what do you think when you go into those games? Like we were even talking a little earlier that like going into games that you're supposed to lose, doesn't mean you're gonna lose. So like how do you like approach those types of like counter comp situations?
Yeah, I get frustrated obviously with certain things, especially when it's just gimmicky things like for example, People play classes like you'll play against a class one season where the mechanics you'll understand the mechanics, you can beat the class, it doesn't seem like it's anything over the top, and then Blizzard will tweak just a few things, and all of a sudden this class starts to ignore its basic mechanics, like demon hunters. Like a lot of demon hunters now, a lot of what they do is automatic. Like they can either proc that leech ability, or they get random blur, and then they have immunities, and it just looks like they throw away strategy other than just damage sometimes, and that gets a little frustrating because it feels like I'll land a double cap stun into a hex on the healer, thunderstorm them away from their healer, I line up Sky Fury, Ice Fury, and he nether walks. Because even though he trinkets nothing, because he just knows if they can't kill me in a stun, and because Ellie and whatever Lock or Boomy or whatever I play, it takes it's hard to kill them, and then that kind of stuff annoys me. I would say I get a little tilted because then it's just like, wow, this little mechanic allows you to not use strategy anymore.
Right, right.
But the best thing to do is afterwards, you just can't get down and then start blaming people. If you think like there was something that someone could have done differently, try to tell them in a way that's not aggressive, or not like, because you made a mistake, you cost us that game. Say it like, can we try it different this way? Or, did we maybe use an ability there that we could have saved? Or, something like that. And you'll figure out that there's sometimes you'll come up with a strategy for a comp that you could not beat before, that all of a sudden you're crushing. Like, if you're playing a rot comp, for example, and you're like, we have to pressure a healer a lot, and then you go, it's not working, let's try CC, and all of a sudden, hey, we beat that comp.
Right.
Like, hey, man, we tried something different, and your team, if you guys are synergizing well and you stay positive, I do believe that the better strategies come from that than getting mad at each other, because then you lose because you're trying to not mess up anymore. You're not trying to win, you're just trying not to screw up and fight anymore. So
I've
always tried to have that approach. I try to joke around a lot. If people watch your stream, I'm sure they've heard me like make random odd noises or yell things or swear or do whatever, but I try not to like rage. Like I've gotten salty, just like anybody else will, but for the most part, I try to goof around and stay positive.
Yeah.
And I think it helps. I think it keeps more teammates coming back that want to play with me versus people like trying to dodge me and like don't want to talk or don't want to play. So.
Right. No, absolutely. No, and it makes sense in keeping things lighthearted and like constructive versus like that way you said about like making mistakes versus trying to just do what's right and win. So I think that's pretty. It's good perspective. So for the PvP scene, it sounds like you've been PvPing since the beginning with your Wind Fury procs to two-hander. Did you ever do any PvE ever, or do those PMs that you send me saying you PvE hero while you're trying to queue those? That's coming from a place of never going into that.
I took it really serious. Back in what would that have been? When was the last Nax? Not the...
Oh, that was you mean the a Wrath one? The first raid of Wrath, I think?
It was Wrath. Yeah. I think it was Wrath. I think you're right. I would say right around the end of Vanilla, I tried taking it really seriously because we actually had a really serious guild. You had to apply on their website and shit like that.
Those days.
Those days, the good old days. And then BC... I tried it a little bit, but I never had a guild. And like I said, I didn't really play BC that much, so I never got into a good raiding guild. Wrath, I got back into it, but mainly just to get gear for PV. But then I got pretty serious about it. I joined a guild, and then there was some changes to mechanics or like classes. Like they did a tuning change. I remember one patch, and it literally killed my motivation to PvE. So like I had like the perfect itemized gear. I did the perfect rotation, or not perfect, but good. I was doing mechanics well. And there were other classes where literally we would play with guys that had garbage gear, but their ability like would just do more damage than I could ever even come close to.
Yeah.
And like we would talk to other shamans, and they're like, that's just kind of the way things are. And I remember being like, nope, I'm done with this. Like,
right.
And organizing large groups of people that all have to be competent and no one has to rage, it just doesn't really happen. Like somebody's always kind of crabby when you get to like a serious guild raid.
Right.
Like when I tried it. But I like PvE, man. I don't mind it. I always joke around because I would rather just PvP all the time because it's more interesting to me.
Right.
But, even with the little bit I've dabbled in Legion, it's been interesting. Especially because if I really haven't done much recently. I don't understand a lot of the mechanics very well. So it's interesting to me how people have kind of fine-tuned a strategy for it. But at the end of the day, I've always felt like once you've beaten it a couple of times or once or twice, there's not really like it's not going to change overnight. Like all of a sudden, hey, instead of lighting the ground on fire, he smashes you with a lightning bolt from the ceiling and kills you instantly. Like it's going to be the same thing every time. You just have to figure out like, okay, make sure we have the same group of people who can do it. And so,
right.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's very difficult, and I would love to be better at it, but I just haven't taken it seriously.
Yeah, and it's like kind of the direct like problem solving. Like you have a raid and you have to figure out how to beat it, and then once you do, you kind of just use that strategy over and over. Versus like PvP where it all varies pretty much every single match. Even if it's the same comp, there could be different people. They play it differently. They have different talents, so it's kind of a different problem every time. So, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I actually. It's funny how now, like, people will switch characters if their character's not in the meta or the class isn't. But I remember back in Wrath, like, DK's Holy Paladins in 2s, my buddy, like, hit 70 or 80 or whatever the max level was, and they just instantly went into Arena and got to, like, 2K just because of how DKs were broken or whatever, and they didn't even have good gear or anything. And back then, you could be, like, the top raiders were also sometimes some of the top PvPers because the gear was so good. But... yeah, even like Shadowmourne. That's the only reason I raided in Wrath was Shadowmourne, because that's what I used to play a warrior. And I raided for like 6 months to get Shadowmourne, and I was like third in line, and I finally got it. And then I like did 3 arenas, and I was like, this is okay, but I'm just done. I'm just like used up. I'm just like jeez, I was just toast. But yeah, PvE has its place. I definitely agree, and I definitely think the new stuff and experiencing it is definitely cool. So I hear you. In terms of competitive play, though, is WoW like your one video game and that you've been pushing on like competitively, like in arena and in RPGs and stuff, or has there been like other games that you've kind of picked up and played before, or during or after or whatever for esports?
I kind of got into Call of Duty. Was it World at War or whatever it was back in college? During one of the summers, I all of a sudden got really good at it, like over the course of a few weeks, because I was working in a factory, and like everyone else in my house or apartment at the time, all my roommates had, other things they were doing or they were back home. So I was at college with like one other person, and we would just play that game like religiously, and drink beer and chill. And so I got really good at it, and I tried, we kind of played that pretty competitively, but that was just like for 4 or 5 months, and then I quit. But WoW's pretty much been the only video game that I've really stuck with for any length of time. I mean, Halo back when I first got Xbox was pretty big.
Right.
But other than that, no, I pretty much strictly play WoW now if I'm going to play a video game. Otherwise, I hang out with my wife and do stuff, But,
oh, yes. Like cribbage.
Like cribbage. But no, WoW has always been a good game for me because it requires a lot of things, like understanding of the game, having coordinated groups of people that you can play well with. It's an ever-changing meta all the time, and it's something that I've kind of grown with. So I understand like changes and stuff much better than if you put me in like a first-person shooter now. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't be like Overwatch, for example. I'm sure I would get absolutely crushed in Overwatch if I tried playing it right now.
Right.
I am not used to that style of game anymore. But no, I really am not actually a big video game guy outside of WoW. It's kind of funny. Like I play a lot of WoW, but other than that, I really don't get into video games very much.
Fair enough. Gotcha. All right. You're the WoWer. Well, you are kind of the best multi-classer that I think I know ever. With kind of like what I mentioned before, you like getting 6 tunes to 2200 and playing. I don't know what class you don't play. Actually, that's not true. Maybe a few of the melees, but you've even like now you have the FDK, now you have the rogue there too. What makes you want to be a multi-classer, and like why and how do you learn the new classes? Because even with rogue, you just started playing that, picking it up like and starting to jump into arenas and doing at least pretty well, kind of right away. So yeah.
I would say I kind of love multi-classing. That's like my favorite part of this game. And every season I set a different goal for multi-classing, because I'm like, hybrid deep like caster DPS has always kind of been my main thing, like Boomkin, LE, S Priest. Recently, I picked up lock a lot more seriously because I've always kind of been good at lock, but I've never really had a team to play with lock till I really met you, honestly, and a
Oh,
couple other people. I know you're the chosen one, Tickle.
the Warlock. Wow.
But the way that I would say that I got good at all the multi-class, not and by good, it's relative terms, but I would say it's been playing against those classes and like seeing like, okay, here's how I know this one's good. Like, Demo lock, for example. Like, I would say the biggest thing I took away from playing its good demo locks is their ability to peel when it matters, their ability to shut down goes, and their ability to all of a sudden generate pressure out of nowhere, with like a Thalkiels or a good Fell Lord, or they line up on 3 Guldans and then they have a ton of pressure and they know when to push in. And so like I felt like, okay, well, heck, this one demo lock just keeps crushing my team. Like, what is he doing mechanically that's causing us to lose? I'm like, oh well, anytime we get pressure, he's stunning into fear, into another stun, into an infernal stun, and he literally shuts our damage down. So I was like, so that's how I kind of learned like the basics of, okay, this is what I'm looking for, so I can emulate what they're doing. um like, for example, I would say like my perfect example is Boomkin, like playing with Ty. Like playing with Tiber, I kind of got to see like, okay, what does he do differently? And like our styles are very different of how we play Boomkin. And that's kind of the beauty of multi-class. When you get good at multi-class, and you can kind of mix it up a little bit. But in general, he showed me a couple things like cloning, when it's important to clone certain cooldowns, when it's important to how to do a good damage rotation when you have a burst window, things like that. It allowed me to kind of see like, I'm like, you know what, I maybe not be as good as him at it, but I can emulate it enough to get by. And then I learned my own style off of it. So I could say, like, my top classes, I would say, are like Lock, all the Lock specs besides Destro, Boomy, LE, Enhance, S Priest, like all those classes. Like, I've kind of built my own style of it, but I've taken a lot of like the people I've played with or against and seen like what works and what doesn't. So I've learned a lot about those classes from experience with and against them. So I can kind of be like, okay, here are the skill moves. Like, these are the ones where you're like, okay, those are the hardest ones to pull off. Like, again, cloning disperse, root beaming, and then following up with an incarn into a clone, into a basher, something following up with another CC chain, or like cloning when you have nothing else, when someone's low, or stuff like that. So I would say multi-classing has always come relatively easy to me, just because I've always liked to level up classes, and I love playing BGs. So I've always played a bunch of classes in BGs, and so whenever I multi-class or I start switching classes around, I'm used to the same pace. Like, for example, I think I have 4 classes around that 2300 mark, but I'm playing at that same pace of gameplay and that same level of gameplay. So then I just take what I've done with one class, and like I said, I move to my next class, and I can kind of move it up to that level pretty easily.
Yeah, and it sounds like you kind of are pulling from other people that you're either playing with or you're talking to or you're learning from. And like you even said earlier, like when those people kind of like took you under their wing early on in your WoW career, it sounds like you really learn a lot from playing and talking and maybe theory crafting and just like having conversations with people about it and like soaking that up and like trying to apply that.
Yeah. Again, like, heck, half the people I've played with, that I play with now, even like everybody I play with, I learned something about their class that I didn't know before, and then I try to be, replicate that when I pick up the same class. So again, like, learning certain mechanics, learning basically the skill moves is the hardest part, because anybody can do damage on any of these classes. That's been the case since forever. The biggest thing is learning, well, like, what's the skill move for that class? Like, what can you do with that class that no other class can do, that kind of sets you apart from the good and the bad players? And so if you can practice those specific abilities over and over again in 2s, BGs, 3s, whatever,
right?
I believe that it makes it easy to multi-class. That's how you transition. Is like Rogue, for example. It was a lot of learning, like, okay, step kick, step kidney, blind, vanish sap, like those types of things. I practice those types of things. I'm like, doing damage isn't going to be the hard part. It's going to be, okay, knowing when is the appropriate time to do this one specific thing that's very difficult, or the more difficult things. So
yeah,
learning from people, like I said, like the Ties, or even like you or Hojo, or some of these other people that I play with that are about the same level as me or above me. I'm like, okay, heck, that might work. Let me try that out, and then I'll practice it and get good at it. So
yeah, and it's interesting you say the thing about damage. Like, I know a lot of people they have recount or they have details up during the arena games, and they're able to, like, they kind of judge a lot based off of damage output. How important do you think that is in kind of arena matches?
Damage output?
Yeah, like damage output, like assessing like if a game goes well or not. Like if you lose, like do you think damage is the only thing that had the factor there, or like how big do you think that is? Because I know there's some
No.
folks out there that will look at damage and like judge like, oh, I did so much damage, we should have been able to kill it. It's like you know, it's like how important do you think that is versus like the control and the other pieces? Because when you're cloning or you're spam fearing, you're losing the damage and the pressure, right? You have to do that trade-off of either you're going to peel something or you're going to do that, or, you know, because you could rotate fears all day and miss a lot of damage. So kind of like balancing out the CC versus the damage. Like how do you go about doing that? And how important do you think it is to like just pump damage for the majority?
It depends a lot. One, on the comp. But I would say as an overall general theme, damage is obviously important because obviously you can't score a kill without doing damage. But for example, like if I'm in an arena and I lose to the exact same class as me, even if we're playing the exact same comp and I lose by 10 million and we win, and the game never felt like it was out of control, then it doesn't matter to me at all. Because I'm like, I don't care. Because most likely when they were sacrificing damage, they were sacrificing good position, making an important play, catching someone without a trinket, you know, coordinating a go, coordinating a peel. So it doesn't really, that's not the most important thing. And again, the comp. For example, if you're playing Frost RMP, or you're playing versus like LSD, like the traditional LSD. Obviously, if you're playing the traditional LSD and you're losing in a 10-minute match or whatever, and you're losing the damage versus that comp,
Yeah.
if both of you are getting out damaged by a frost mage, then maybe you need to go back and reevaluate, like, okay, what's happening? Like, how are we getting beaten and damaged by a class that is mainly a run setup class that bursts but in short windows versus good sustained damage? So I would say damage is obviously definitely important, but nowhere near the most important thing. Like I've seen people before, there has been multiple Ellie Shamans that I've beaten on farm them, and running the exact same comps as me that they can out damage, but I'll watch them stand in the middle of the map and just cast Chain Lightning trying to pad the meters instead of actually lining up. Like, okay, well, you're going to stand out there and cast Chain Lightning, and then you're going to get locked, and you're not going to be able to do anything, and you're going to die in the middle of the map.
Right.
So it's kind of one of those, and traditionally, I'm usually either 1 or 2 in damage, no matter what comp I play, no matter which of the classes I'm playing. And even then, I'll tell people, I'll hear people say that, and I'll say it every once in a while. If I do 100 million damage in an arena, and the next closest person's 40, it's a 10-minute match, and we lose because our healer oomed, then I start to ask questions like, again, why did that happen? Like, we doubled their damage, yet we went before they did.
Right.
So it's important, but good coordination, good positioning, good goes, good peels, knowing when to CC, when to play offensive, when to play defensive, like that matters most. And when you become more fluid at a class, you can do damage and do all of those things at the same time. That kind of goes back to my point of you learn the skill abilities and what the class mechanics should look like in an arena, and then you just implement damage into that time. So like kiting and learning how to do damage when you're kiting, how to do damage when you're being like you're able to push and get a go. So damage is important, but definitely people get too focused on damage sometimes. I hear people all the time that I play with going, look at my damage compared to their damage, and we lost. It's like, yeah, but you know, the Demon Hunter and the Warrior were sitting on our healer with meta and rack, and we didn't peel at all. So it doesn't matter that you did that much damage because we could have just peeled and then won the game. So
yeah,
it's important, but middle of the pack. It's up there, but not number 1.
No, yeah. And speaking about damage too, whenever we do RBGs or battlegrounds, you're usually, I'm pretty sure I can confidently say you're pretty much always number 1 on the damage, no matter what class or specs that you go. I mean, I remember times when you're like, should I go Control of Lava? Should I go this random build? Should I do it? And then you did it, and you still got number 1 on damage. And I was just like, what is going on? You're just like, I'm going to totally get myself and then still beat damage. And it's not like, you know, everyone else is trying and you're still up there. And this is like, you know, in rated battlegrounds and random battlegrounds, you know, what do you think that you're doing that other people maybe could take as like a tip for increasing damage output in BGs specifically, because you are probably the damage lord that like in the Tiqqle party crew that we run with ever, you know? So I just... Yeah, what do you think you're doing that other people could do that could really take them to that next level of damage that you're talking about, 250 k DPS in these BGs just nonstop, no matter the class, because we're talking across 6 different classes, usually casters, but still.
So there's a couple things. One, I played way too many battlegrounds, random battlegrounds. Like that's kind of just my time killer. Like I'll be like, I'm gonna hop in a random battleground, and getting really fluid with the transition of when to use your AoE abilities and your single target abilities, and how to really combo damage, and picking good targets. Like I see a lot of people, for example, in rated battlegrounds, even more so, they spend so much time trying to coordinate. Well, we should go this person, this person, this person, and sometimes you just have to realize, like, okay, at this point, we're probably not going to get a kill, but let's create a large amount of pressure. Like, for example, if you know that they're grouping up for a certain flag capture point or something, you save Stormkeeper, you wait till you get a lava burst so you get the clear focus or the casting, the damage buff. You wait till you have blood free, all these combinations, and then you earthquake them down, you put it on their healers, then you start single targeting healers, and it's just getting more fluid with the damage. But at the same time, even though I do a lot of damage, you'll also notice I'm always at the top for lockouts, like getting people, like locking out healers, locking out their main damage dealers. Like, so again, it goes back to, it's important that I do that much damage because you need at least a few of your team to like be up there. But you always want to make sure that, like, again, when, okay, here's an important moment, we're starting to break their team down, they're not keeping their people, they're all getting about 50%. Now it's time to lock the healer, or better yet, we're falling behind, it's time to lock the other DPS while sustaining a high damage output. So again, the biggest one I would take away from a lot of people that are doing BGs are they get very clunky with knowing when to do damage, when to run, and you can be doing high amounts of damage while still being an important member of the team, like CCing, locking out someone that's doing too much damage, locking out a healer when they're low. But again, the biggest one I would say is getting more fluid with their damage rotation in a BG. I see a lot of people, for example, a lot of Ellie Shamans primarily will be my big one. You'll see a team group up, and they'll be casting Lava Burst on a random warrior in defensive stance, instead of being like,
right.
Hey, Earthquake is not only disruptive, but it does a lot of damage. Like, okay, let's go for the Stormkeeper, and I'm going to be rotating Earthquakes in and off Stormkeepers, and then I'm going to start single targeting one of the healers with Ice Fury. And it's just, I would say people need to realize, okay, when's the time to AoE? When's the time to pick a specific target? When's the time to go to healer? And to make sure that they're comboing their damage well, which I'm sure I've seen some of your videos where you even talk about, like for Ellie specifically, but you can do it with all classes. Okay, here's how I combo my damage. And you can repetitively do these combos on people while still doing AoE pressure as most of the casters.
Right.
So, yeah, when I do BGs with your team, I'm usually number one. No, and that's not the tooting my own horn thing. That's more of just it's because I played a lot of like random battlegrounds on all my classes. I'm very comfortable on any class that I play in a BG setting, because I know, like, okay, if we get in a team fight, I'm going to destroy this team because I know what I'm looking for. For example, another thing is if I see there's a lock on the other team or there's a frost mage on the other team, you better believe I'm kicking the lock, because I know that, hey, if their team can't get pressure, I can just go, full offense and basically just get a ton of pressure out. Also, talents. I see a lot of people make the mistake of picking the wrong talents. Like, they'll do a single target build as an affliction lock in a rated battleground, and it blows my mind. Because they won't get kills because they don't understand that the spell will shut them down.
Right.
And then they aren't keeping up pressure on the whole team, and that's why you bring the affliction lock.
Right.
Same with like even Ellie too, to an extent. But I would say those are the two big things: lots of practice, fluid, and knowing your talents. Like, your talents aren't going to be the same as arena, most likely. You need to understand, okay, this is a good BG talent, this is going to be more of my arena talent. So
yeah. Well, I think it's cool too, because like even like when we've done like BGs together, like it's not like when I look, it's not like your only casted spell is Chain Lightning because you're hitting pets and because you're doing that. It's not like pad. It's actually intentional, and it's not like you're like on a Boomkin casting Starfall or and spamming those types of things. It's definitely thoughtful. It's not just like spamming to pad. because you still
Yeah.
get, so I think that's the other thing too, is to get high damage you don't have to just cleave on everything. It's actually doing it thoughtfully and not hitting those defense stance warriors like you said, which is like, with Earth Shield and whatever else on them. So no, that I think that makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned that like you do a lot of battlegrounds, and I definitely think you do more battlegrounds than anyone else I know, especially at that's a high arena player. What have you been doing battlegrounds since the beginning when you started playing? Like, where did that like interest for that go? Come from?
Well, I'm a vanilla baby, man. That's all we had when I first started. And I'll never forget, like, back then it was super competitive on realms. Like, there were people that I still to this day can remember their names being like, if you saw them in a BG, you're like, I'm gonna kill them no matter what. They're like number one. And I just like BGs, man. I mean, I honestly believe if you want to be good at multi-classing, you better be doing BGs. You better be doing low CR3s. You better be getting comfortable with like understanding what one class, how to counter a class, and the best way to do it's in the BGs because you're gonna be playing, no offense, but probably people of a lower skill level and lower coordination levels with like their teams. So you can practice like, okay, I got a one-on-one with a Windwalker here. Like, how can I kite them? What abilities do I need to use? What abilities do I need to wait for? And I mean, you get much better at being like having a good conceptual understanding of mechanics of each class and how did you damage. Remember what I said earlier was like being able to be effective in a BG and yet be top damage. The reason why is because if you're comfortable knowing, okay, this capture point, they're going to bottleneck. This is when I'm going to AoE. Here, they're spread out. I got to start spreading single target abilities on certain people, or, this is when I need to CC. You get much more comfortable,
Right.
and I think random BGs have a great place in the game because you get much more fluid on your class. You know when to, like, how to generate, for example, Elliot, you get better knowing how to generate Maelstrom, how to single target, when to cleave. And so I like doing BGs from that perspective. Plus, it's just fun because it's not as intense as arenas at higher MMRs. It's not as it's competitive in a kind of a chill way. So I can just put music on, hang out, drink a beer, and do some BGs.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, again, I'm from vanilla, man. That's all we had. So I learned to love BGs, except for Rock Valley.
That was my next question.
Deleted.
That was my next question was, what's the thought on AV and okay. All right. Now, all right, hey man, that's it. I used to love AV, but maybe that's because I was Alliance. I don't know. But that was also way back because I used to actually. Dude, I used to queue AV specifically on my SLSL Warlock in BC, and that's just all I did all day.
You're the reason why I don't do that anymore.
Dude, the bridge is so great, though.
Shut up.
Oh my god. Wow. No, I hear it. Have you tried the new BG?
I did. I really like it, man. I think the brawls and everything they're doing right now is great. I think there's a couple more things they can add to PvP for this next expansion, but I'm liking the general ideas. So
yeah,
and that being one of them.
Yeah, and do you like the thought of the what do you think of the 6-man RBG change?
Hell yeah, man. Any type of competitive PvP that they can add and maybe possibly update the reward system for said things and really improve and if they could just add one person to keep coming up with ideas like that, like just a team of people where it's like, listen, you will do nothing else but add content and new reward systems. And because I think it's great, man. I think it gets people into PvP in a different way. And in a 6v6, you still need to be good. Don't get me wrong. Same with RBGs. You can't be a terrible, terrible, terrible player who doesn't want to communicate or work well with a team. But 6v6, I think that's great for people that are trying to get in like a little bit more of a, hey, this has to be way more coordinated than like just an RBG. And I think it's good. I think it's a good way to get people into the game where they can play with their friends who might be a little bit higher rated than them, and they can learn like I learned. And I think 6v6, anything like that's a great idea. I'm always for competitive PvP improvements. And I mean, I know if you ask any of the people I play with seriously, that we all agree like this next expansion, it sounds like they're trying to do some things like improving their BGs, and I've heard rumors they're looking at improving the reward system for like PvP in general. I think that's all great, man. So they keep it up. That's the kind of stuff they need to do to keep this game like to make this game, a little bit more player friendly, but still more competitive at the same time.
Yeah, because I mean, they even Blizzard themselves. I mean, they have so much stuff going on in WoW now. For every weekend, there's the cups going on, but they also have Overwatch going on, where Overwatch is pulling way more in terms of audience. So, like clearly, there's probably more people playing that game in that scene. But I do think, yeah, the 6-man RBG. Now you're getting to what Overwatch games have 6-man teams too, right? It's like a little bit more intimate, and I do think what you said makes sense. Like you're going to be able to actually pay attention to what all your teammates are doing and give them feedback and actually, kind of like build synergy. My personal opinion on RBGs today with like 10 people, it's hard to manage that many people. And like, and
Yes.
it's much more of a like one person driving the bus and everyone else is, doing everything else. And like, not everyone has to be kind of like on point and accountable. And a 6-person team, that's almost a 5v5. I mean, everyone's going to be paying attention to everything that's happening. And it's not too many people yelling at each other in Discord. So,
No,
yeah,
I
I'm
agree.
excited.
I am too, man. I might even take it up seriously. RBGs right now are just kind of a, you call me in whenever, like, apparently there's room for a DPS increase somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But no, man, I'm definitely going to take it seriously. I think 6v6 is a great idea. I think that's because, again, 10-person RBGs is a pain in the butt for new people getting into it to, like, first off, get their MMR up because there's not enough games because it's not
Yeah.
that frequent. You get into a full RBG group that sticks together for any length of time. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And what are your thoughts on solo queue?
solo queue, man.
Oh,
I think it was a movement that I mean, obviously, again, it's like the 6v6 comment. I'm never going to take away. I would never say don't do things to get more people into the PvP scene. But it's kind of a glorified skirmish a little bit.
Yeah.
And my problem with it is it might incentivize people to play. But it's just they're going to put focus on that, and it may detract from, like I said, they need to just up make the reward system in arenas better. Like it shouldn't be you have to get to a high rating before you get anything cool.
Yeah.
It should be, hey, you dedicated time to this. You played this many games. You've done these things. Here's some cool stuff, not just a couple of skins here and there. Like something like more substantial, like points towards buying a large amount of stuff. And the higher you get, maybe the more points you get. Something cool that everyone can do. I think solo queue is a good idea in concept. Again, though, it's kind of like a glorified arena skirmish. You're going to end up having the same thing. You're going to have long queue times because even if more healers participate, more DPS will participate. And it's still going to be a lopsided number where you're going to be waiting. And if you get random comps where you're getting like Ellie Shaman, Mistweaver Monk, Prot Warrior, and you're playing go against an RMP randomly that's actually you're going to get destroyed, and it's going to be demoralizing. So if they were going to do it, they would have to spend a lot of time to make it a little bit smoother. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, and if they have extra time, hell yeah, throw it in. People are complaining about it, let them have it. But
Right.
there's so many other things you could do to improve the system that's already working instead of worrying about something else that's hypothetically going to maybe be good. So
yeah, well, and even with like WoW being the level of complexity that the PvP has, like the amount of buttons you have standalone, like that's like I feel like it is like a lot of mentorship and like person-to-person learnings. So I mean that's a lot harder to do when you're solo queuing and with no voice and just random comps. So I see both sides. So
well, yeah, I mean think about the comps that we play. We would have an advantage over, let's say, a Cupid.
Right.
If we both randomly matched up because our comp obviously at the higher levels, you're going to need to do much better coordination. But originally, it's going to be at the low MMRs, you're going to be a lot more PvE style play.
Yeah.
Especially in older expansion. Can you imagine in the MOP LSDs if you could if it was solo queue and you randomly got that team and you tried to like, Cupid into them, you would get demolished every single time.
Yeah.
So
at least I'd be running around with the lightning bolt though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
God, I can't believe they did that for an expansion too. Like just the run casting was unreal. That was like the only time that's ever happened other than Fire Mage Searing Pain and like a few abilities. Like that's just
it's coming back, man.
Oh my god.
People, all these solo queue people, man. # running lightning bolt.
Doesn't flow off the tongue as easily, but we can.
Nope. No, it doesn't.
It's going to start the movement.
This trend now. Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Now it's going to be a thing. Wow. Well, and like talking about being mentors and teaching, like, maybe like with people that you're meeting, all that stuff, you do help people get 2K, and you do, like, help people with tips and tricks and like helping them out, especially towards the end of the season. I remember last year, like you, Tiber, and all these really good players were helping people like make their last 150 point push to get 2K. A lot of people are really want that for the transmogs because this is World of Fashion Craft. So what makes you like to help people push for 2K, and like what do you like about doing that and helping people out?
Man, I've always been a person that likes that kind of stuff, man. I'm a pretty laid back guy. I'm not gonna rage at people, especially like even when I lose games at like 1700 on alts, playing with people's alts that are just trying to get their gear. And like I'm a pretty chill person, and I understand like people are stuck, man. I get stuck. I mean, I'm stuck right now. I'm trying to get to 2400 plus, and it would be great if there was someone that was high rated than me that could be like, hey man, you're missing a couple of small things, and if and if you want to, I can help you out. And
Right.
I know that especially for that mod gear, man, there's people that they're the coolest people I know, and they understand the game well, but like they just aren't fluid yet at their classes. And I just think that if they get the chance to play with people that have a good enough understanding, that they can actually get it. And it's just fun to do, man. Hearing how pumped someone gets about 2K, I remember my first 2Ks, and I remember how pumped I was. I'm like, this is awesome, dude. And like helping people, I've been doing this ever since I played with my little brother back in the day, getting him his 2K or helping him get his 2K. It was like he was so pumped about it, and like whatever, it was just cool. And so ever since then, I'm like, there's a lot of people that they're definitely good enough players to get it, because even if you help them, they still have to carry their own weight. That you can't just like, if you have a person that's never going to break 1600, there's nothing wrong with that. But if they're asking to get to 2K or you to help them, sometimes it's just not in the cards. But I do my best at the end of the season. If it's a class, if I know I'm like not going to be getting Glad, it is weird as it is to say, I don't need that many more duelist titles. I think if you counted
well, I was gonna say like 12 that you get every season.
I think I'm close to 20 now.
That's ridiculous.
And 2 Glad titles. So at this point, unless I'm getting a Glad or I'm in close to Glad, I'm not that worried about it. So I would rather see like someone get their first 2K or someone get their 2200. And Ty's a lot of the times I team up with Ty and help him with, like, if we find a friend of ours that they're just on the cusp. There's one buddy of ours that we help out like every season, plays Death Knight, and he's always like one of the more chill, fun people to play with. And because of that, it's not a task. It's not like I'm having to carry him, nothing like that. I'm like, dude, let's just play with him for a little while, and we'll get him up, get him his 2K, or help him get his 2K. And man, it's one of my favorite things to do in WoW, because like for me 2K now, if it's not that it's not hard when I first start the season out, but there's not the level of excitement there is for some of these people. It's just cool to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Like you're my personal backpack.
God, the stream titles are just getting too ridiculous. Period. Just so you know. Just so you know. It's just too descriptive. Too descriptive. But I was looking through some of the VODs, because we obviously play a lot together, of different I'll only call them closers that you apply to the enemy team, including that one time you with the Feral that didn't see it coming.
Yes.
Oh, and the other time with the Hunter that was sent to heaven. And then just the other day when you went Super Saiyan. So, and then a lot of other times when you scream profanity, because it's usually we know we score the kill because you're screaming something, which is always like actually pretty awesome and exciting. And there are definitely sayings that I'm going to start actually recording, or like documenting all the different sayings that were that are being used at the end of these games, because eventually something will happen with them. But is there any reason? Is there or a ban? Yes. But is there any reason for that, or is that just kind of like, because you definitely get like excited with the games? Is that just kind of like the climax of the match of intensity?
No, it's just me. I'm a pretty energetic person when it comes to, like, whenever I do anything, I like to, like I said, and it's funny. Like, I kind of do it as, like, it's not just humor. I mean, I'm being kind of serious, but, like, a lot of times, like when I say, like, they're going to a farm to play with other ferals or something like that, like obviously that kind of stuff is just it's funny, and it keeps the games lighthearted.
Oh God.
And when you hear me yelling profanities, that's usually because some kind of stupid mechanical gimmicky comp, like
Right.
double destro.
Oh my God.
When I play against those things, they deserve it, and
Right,
they know they deserve it, and I hope they could hear it through their headset when
They
I
can
say those
sense
things.
it.
But no, man, it's something unique. Like, I know a lot of people I play with, they laugh, they think it's funny. Like, I've had people tell me I'm annoying. That's why I don't play with them anymore.
They're gone. They're gone.
They're gone. They're on the farm with those pharaohs. But,
oh my God.
But no, man, again, it's keeping games lighthearted and having fun. Like, if you're not having fun, why the hell are you playing this game?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And especially just you know, like I think there definitely is a difference between like pushing and like just playing games. But sometimes it's not. It's just like having a good time, doing the right stuff, and being like, you know, in it. Because I definitely think there's sometimes when people will ask me like, even about RPGs, like, are we gonna push for RPGs? It's like, dude, I'm all like, I don't know, I'm like always on. I always want to play, and it's not like, you know, sometimes we're goofing off, but you know, if you're playing like with your team, it's at least for me, it's like always like I'm on it. I'm trying to play. It's not like I'm just totally goofy unless I'm on like an alt or something that we know that we're like low CR rat leaguing. You know?
No, man, like I said, that's why I would say, like, ironically, like, I had just started watching your videos. I'm like, dang, this guy's kind of funny. He seems like he's chill. Like, and he's a cool Ellie to watch. And, like, experience-wise, I'm like, the games like I was watching weren't like Gladiator level games, but it was cool to watch because I'm like, hey, he does things different than me. Again, I took some things from you, but when I actually saw you and looking for group, I'm like, it totally applied to your group. Didn't even think about it. Right. When I saw you, I'm like, wait a second, you're that guy. And I'm like, man, I bet you any money his persona is gonna be different than what he sees in the videos. And I was like, no, you're a chill dude. And because of that, though, I think you can do both relaxed, chill, fun games and still push rating. And as a matter of fact, the highest ratings I've ever gotten have never been with overly try-hardy, salty players.
Right.
It's always been with people that I can goof around with and have fun and relax and not yell at each other. And so, yeah, there's definitely times to put on the try-hard pants and, like, really focus on pushing rating. But for the most part, you can definitely still have a good time. Like, I'm going to be yelling stupid profanities and stupid closing lines, like you just said, at 2100, 1800, 1400, 2600, whatever rating right. I'm at. I'm always going to do that because that's just who I am. Because I want to have fun when I'm playing this game. And if you take it too seriously, you start getting mad at each other, and then I've seen a lot of people that I was friends with on this game that no longer I talk to because they got to that point where you're not playing to have fun. You're taking it like, this is worth $1 million to you. And
right.
So, and you'll see even the top end players, the ones that succeed in the tournaments are the ones that have fun and play well together. So,
yeah. Well, and I know you Tiber and Matt, who I don't know where he is right now, but I miss
He's
him.
on that farm we talked about.
Oh yeah. Well, there was when Tiber actually sent, and I'm sending you this. Let me see if this will send through. But Tiber sent me this video or this image, and one day it'll actually send, or maybe it won't. I'll have to link it to you. But he sent me this picture that you had sent him when you're waiting to see your Glad title, if it was there or not.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I put it in Discord.
There it is.
Gladiator, you knew it. How did seems like you were a little excited. You knew it was coming. What was that like? Like, wait, was it that the day of, like, server, like you're at work and you're like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna have to see, because you didn't know what the cutoff was, right?
No, so, man, we've been talking for a while, but this is good, man. I like this. It's a good conversation. Yes, so this is one of the most time. This is probably the time I got the saltiest with Blizzard I've ever gotten about anything, because they released it estimated cutoffs, and then they put like a range. There could be an error, like a standard deviation range, or like, by about 15. And I remember that day they dropped it, and it was like 25-20, and we were at like 25-60. And I'm like, shit. And the range of error, they're like, it could be up to 20 points off. I'm like, even if it's the top end, there's no way that we're off.
You're like doing the math. You're like, we're still clear.
Well out of this range. And so we were sitting there, and I get a text from Matt or Ty. I think it was Ty actually saying basically they just changed title cutoffs, and we looked and it was 26-15. Like, oh no. So the night before that picture was taken, we stayed up, man, and we grinded.
Oh, wow.
Ty and Matt, and it was like non-fodem comp. We were playing against all the meta comps, all rank 1 players. You're talking Sea-Doo, Rub Cub, Bean, Driftings, all these guys that are routinely rank 1s, and we were playing comps that countered us. We were playing comps that were hard, that were better than a 50-50 win-loss versus us, and we all of a sudden just like got in the zone, and it was like the best queue session I've ever had, and we beat guys like Rub Cub who were running teams that countered us and had beaten us like 3 times. We beat them that night. It was just like we were in the zone. We were beating teams that were far higher experience, better players than us, and we were having fun the whole time, and we were laughing and joking, and we stayed up till like 2:30 in the morning, and it was just a good time. And I'm like, you know what? There is no chance that we don't get Glad. I don't care if they change the title cutoffs. I'm like, we are well outside of their range now. I'm like, but we just put in some serious work, and it wasn't awful, and we had a good time, and we beat guys that I'm like, there's no chance. Because for the longest time, I'm like, I will never be a Gladiator. I will never get Glad. I'm never going to ever even see these guys in arena other than they're like down their 15th all.
Right.
And we were beating them, farming guys like toes into them. And so that day I took the picture. I'm like, I'm putting it up, man. It's a good luck omen. Picture.
Gladiator over your head.
I'm putting the Gladiator title. I'm going to walk around work with it over my head. And so, like I said, I took that picture as kind of like a lighthearted thing, but definitely believe you and me, I was driving a little bit faster to get home that night. I'm like, if they screwed me over again, I'm going to lose it. So yeah, we got Glad on both sets of our tunes.
That's right.
Because I was the only troll shaman that got Glad as an Ellie that season.
Oh my god!
I think I was the only troll shaman at all.
I was about to say, I don't know if I know any troll shaman.
Yep, I did that, but no, it was yeah. So that picture, there's a little story behind that, man. But that was the only season they ever did that, where they kept changing it every day. Every day they changed the title cutoffs. So.
Wow. Well, and now you can actually see it, because now they actually draw the cutoffs just all the time. It's like, thanks Blizzard for actually doing math that is like not that freaking hard, given that you guys are sitting on all the information, and you have like independent people like figuring it out by themselves. It's like, it's freaking ridiculous. But
all the forum posts by guys like me, man. That's why.
You sons of bitches posted earlier. Why are you doing this?
If you don't do this, you're all going to the farm.
Oh god, feral farm.
That's the feral farm.
Oh my god. Well, so only a few more questions, but so Tiber said that you grew up in Wisconsin. Is that true?
That is correct, sir. I am a Wisconsin man.
I see. So how do you feel about cheese? Are you one of those guys that eats and loves cheese?
I am a little bit of a cheesehead.
Are you really?
A little bit, but my wife is an addict.
Wait, is she from Wisconsin as well?
She is. She's from the heart of Wisconsin, yeah.
Shit. Dude, one time I went to Wisconsin. I met someone off WoW that I played with for a while in Chicago, and he drove me to Wisconsin. I thought I was going to die. But we went by, like, my introduction to Wisconsin, driving over the border between Illinois and Wisconsin, was a cheese castle. That's what.
Yes, the like, Mars Cheese Castle. I bet you I know exactly where there's a giant mouse. Yep.
Like, what the hell is this place? And then they started telling me about Wisconsin's people and cheese.
Dude, shit gets weird when it snows that much.
Is that what it is? You guys just stay home and just eat cheese curds all day?
You get cabin fever for real in the winter, and just the weirdest shit will come out of the Midwest in winter, man. The weirdest trends, people running around in the snow in their underwear, people making ice castles, ice bars.
Oh my god.
Crappy food in the dark, you name it, man. We get all sorts of crazy in the middle of the winter, so
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, the cheese thing is a little bit weird, because that's probably why we have such a problem with heart disease, but hey. It's that giant cheese castle. That's a good resting place.
Oh my god. Well, what's the most ridiculous, or you or your wife now, because now I know the truth, and that's how you guys probably met. But what's the most ridiculous cheese you've bought or gotten, and why was it like the best cheese ever?
So we went to Door County, which is like this beautiful place in Wisconsin. It's kind of a little area right near the Great Lakes. And they had a cheese shop, and of course my wife is an addict, like a full-blown cheese addict. So I went in there, we went into this store, and they had the most random things, like bacon, jalapeno, cheddar, cheese, like blocks, and all these things. And so we were going through samples, and there was one, and it was cranberry, jalapeno, mixed with like some kind of sugar, something. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot, just because, whatever. And it was surprisingly good. And I was like, okay, well, let's keep going down the chain. And it was another one. It was like bacon mixed with some kind of random fruit, boysenberry, something. And I ate it, and it gave me the worst stomachache ever. But I got a little creative, a little crazy that day with the cheese. But yeah, my wife is like, sometimes I wonder if I have to have like an intervention with her when it comes to it.
Oh my God. I had a buddy that he would buy, he was like, oh, I got this 40-year-old aged cheddar that I got like 2 pounds for $100. And I was like, what are you doing with your life? But it's just, it's a thing.
That long in Wisconsin, man. It doesn't last 40 years. That's why we don't have that old cheese.
Oh my God. It's just ridiculous. It's crazy. But hey, you guys like your cheese. Hey, I'll give it to you. I went to that cheese castle. I got cheese curds or something, and they were good.
Yeah, the squeaky thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Good stuff, man.
That's crazy. And I know that you work in. Well, I believe you work in a cardiology department at a hospital. Is that right?
I do. I work in the stress lab and the cardiac rehab.
And so, like, do you feel that, like, I've talked to other people in like the medical profession that are into WoW, and they mention that like being in it's a stressful environment. I can only imagine to be in a hospital, especially cardiology, and you have a lot of serious shit going on, really serious shit, and you can't really I would imagine you can't like goof off too much at all, especially when you're with patients, etc. Do you think WoW is like a good like break and escape from like that, where you can just kind of like do whatever? And is that kind of something like a role that it plays for you? It's like unserious place.
It is. WoW is one of my de-stressors, I would say, and not just everything, personal stuff, work stuff. But I will tell you this: at work, I'm as goofy as I am on WoW. My patients love me for that reason. The ones that I get to work with, I try to be as laid back as possible, because even when you're sick, the last thing you want is people just to tell you you're sick and be solemn and depressed looking. So you notice that my job is stress testing, so it's to get people on a treadmill, do their work as hard as they possibly can, harder than they think they've ever worked, and feel like crap the whole time. And if you're miserable looking, or you are solemn and you're kind of tense looking, it makes them it's harder to motivate someone to do that. So I love my job. I work in cardiac rehab, so people after they've had an event, getting them strong and back on their feet. But it is stressful sometimes when things don't go smoothly or there's a problem. And WoW is a great release to just come home, chill, and have a good time with your friends and play around, do nothing. That's why I try to be as laid back as I can be in WoW.
Right. Because it's interesting. Yeah, because we have someone in the guild too that he's a surgeon, and he will literally be like, it'll be like 3 a.m. and he's like, all right, I got to go into the hospital. I have surgeries. I'm like, what the? He's like, but it's true. I mean, it's like the consequences on the internet they're nothing compared to a lot of that stuff. So it makes a lot of sense. But exactly. That's awesome. Well, I have one last question, probably the most important question. It has to do about your dog, who I have heard a little bit in the background a few times. She has a squeaky toy.
Yes.
What is the deal with the squeaky toy?
The infamous toy.
I feel like she's the cheerleader for any arena game that you do, because sometimes we'll be watching or playing with you, and middle of the game you'll hear, and you're just like you can't really focus on it. But like, what's the story? Is it?
She's jealous. She gets jealous. I think my wife's been training her on the side to bother me when I play WoW. So there's a toy that we bought her, and it was a mistake.
I was about to say, like, who bought the toy for her?
Me. It was me.
You?
It's payback. But anyways, I was gonna take it away from her, but it legit made her sad. Like, she would lay down next to where I had taken it. So I can't take it from her. So I have to leave it out for her. And when I'm in here, I'm not by her, and she gets jealous, and she'll come in, and she does it intentionally to bother, like, to interrupt the WoW playing. And she'll stay just out of arm's reach. So you'll hear me trying to get it from her when she has it, and despite my best effort, she eludes me. And as a matter of fact, right now, she's sleeping right next to it on the bed behind me, staring at me while I'm talking.
She knows she could do it.
Yes. Oh my God. She's just waiting. But yeah, so that was my own doing getting her that toy, and now I can't get it away from her. So
Oh my
it's one of those things
gosh.
you guys will all have to deal with randomly.
She's the cheerleader.
She is. She's a Tiqqle Party cheerleader, man.
There it is. Oh yeah, and you were the one that came up with the name Tiqqle Party.
Keep that on the down low, man.
Oh yeah,
Can't be telling
sorry.
people, but
I'll cut that.
Tiqqle, you
I'll
came up with that.
I'll edit that out. Oh my god, GG. No, but no, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about this.
No
Being
problems,
the
buddy. I
multi-classroom master, and I'll be including all your Twitch links so everyone can come watch you on all of your different characters, slaying all the mans.
Yep, and tell anybody that if they come in my channel or whatever, I'm trying to get better at looking at it, but I'm one of those cheap guys. I didn't pay for 2 screens. But I really am trying to work on I do answer any questions for people that are like stuck at a rating that obviously if you're higher than me, I can't help you as much because you're clearly doing better than I am. But if you're lower rating relative to like where I'm sitting at the current time, I always love to help people. Like if you have questions, and I'm not just saying that because I want followers, and they could be on Tiqqle's channel too. I will step in and help out if I can. So anybody that's ever there, feel free to whisper me in game, stuff like that. I'm always open to helping out. If I don't respond right away, I'm either not at the computer or I'm like in the game or something, but I'll try to get to you and help you out. So
That's awesome. And you do have, I mean, I'm thinking that the classes, in case they have questions across, I mean, you have like every single class. The only thing I don't think I've seen you play, maybe a warrior?
Monk, warrior, and demon hunter.
So every other class is what
And
you...
hunter. And
hunter?
I don't.
Okay.
My brother and I play it. We'll goof around on one, but yeah, I play on it a little bit. But in every class I play, I have 2,300 experience at least. I think.
So any questions, you are the guy.
Yeah, especially if it's a multi-classing question or transferring to a new class, like what are some things to pick up on, I definitely can help you with that. If you're asking for boomy questions, yeah, you can ask me. I'm kind of like Tiber 2.0, so
kind of like it.
Runaka's on the come up, so feel free to ask us some questions about that. But in all seriousness, no, seriously, I can help with that kind of stuff because I know transitioning to some classes are a little bit harder. So just feel free to ask.
That's awesome, dude. You're the man. You're the man, Thunder. You're the man. All right, my boy.
Buddy.
All right. And thanks to Thunderbud and Runaka, whatever you want to call him. He's a great guy. Thanks for being on Tiqqle Talk number 3. Guys, hit that like button, hit that sub button. Let me know who else you want to see on the Tiqqle Talk. We'll bring these guys back for sure, but let me know who else is on that wish list, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Good night.